Charmander, go ahead. Bulbasaur, go ahead. What the heck? Charizard. The Charmeleon. And Venusaur, come on, man. Not even Venusaur, ain't it? Mew? Jigglypuff? Yeah. I'm checking it. Cypher, isn't Cypher? Ninetales. Cypher. I mean, Aerodactyl. Wait a minute, is that Charlemagne? Yeah. It was a cool task. Back to back. Yes. Hey. Oh, still have Bama beating Texas A&M. BYU. SEC. See? Yeah. Well, Navy's got the toughest schedule against Notre Dame. Because of Notre Dame. They gotta play Notre Dame. Because of Notre Dame. So. Hmm. Don't think it's an 100% lock. To root against Virginia, Houston, and Cincinnati.
What do you want to see and who do you want to root against? I've got those answers. Are you ready? Here's the answers. You need to root against Virginia, Houston, and Cincinnati. Those three teams specifically are in a unique position to just blow this thing up. Blow this thing up. And if you're fans of those teams, you're like, yes, that's what the playoff is all about. So, like, good on you. And I'm rooting for you as well. But if you want chalk, you need those teams to lose. There is a really weird scheduling deal going on in the ACC right now with Virginia and North Carolina State. Right now, Virginia's only loss on the year is to North Carolina State. Now, on its face, you would think, oh, okay, so Virginia has one loss in ACC play. No, they don't. In fact, that was a weird scheduling agreement where Virginia and North Carolina State agreed to play a non-conference game this year because there's so many teams and there's only 8 conference games, and those two teams weren't going to play each other for a long period of time in the natural scheduling rhythm of the ACC. So they got together and they decided to do a home and home non-conference in which this year North Carolina State beat Virginia, but Virginia is undefeated in ACC play. True story, can't make this up, only in college football. It's wild. So because of that, Virginia actually has the inside track on getting to the ACC championship game over Miami. So you really need, if you're Miami in this case, like a Cal or a Duke to knock these teams off or knock Virginia off. You need all of these teams to start beating each other. And Virginia is certainly one of those. But again, it's a really weird one. Cincinnati, currently unbeaten in the Big 12. Their only loss was the opening week of the season to Nebraska. That game was in Arrowhead, if you remember. They had all the celebrities in there. Patrick Mahomes was there. I think Taylor Swift was there because I was Cincinnati.
Kelsey.
That was wild. But Cincinnati lost that game. And now they're undefeated they're undefeated in the Big 12. So Texas Tech is sitting there like, wait, we feel like we're the best team, but we're in a second position right now, an outside position, just like Miami in the ACC. They need somebody to beat Cincinnati. Cincinnati's got to go to Utah. Utah's ranked right now. They've got Arizona. They've got BYU and at TCU. That's why I didn't put them in this. I think they've got a couple of these games that are going to be really tough for Cincinnati. I like what they've done so far, but Utah and BYU is a bridge too far for me for Cincinnati. Houston, like the rest of them, they only have one loss right now. No ranked opponents left. How about this for Houston? Their remaining schedule is West Virginia, UCF, TCU, and at Baylor. I mean, Tech needs this team to lose. It's a wild one right now. I think that Houston, which lost to Texas Tech, I think that they need another loss to TCU or Baylor. You don't want them lurking in that at-large spot, getting themselves into the Big 12 championship game if you want chalk. So those are three teams that right now, could produce some wild scenarios at the end of this year. This is really fun for me to do, these projections. Obviously, we'll see if they're correct. They're probably going to be wrong. But in this model, there's a lot of new blood in the college football playoff. It could be very fun down the stretch. There's a lot of fan bases engaged at the top end of the sport. There's a lot of games that mean everything. Iowa, Oregon, all of a sudden becomes a massive game because of the extension, the growth of the college football playoff. It's been a great thing. So there you have it. That'll do it, the November projection for the college football playoff. We will be back tomorrow with picks and previews. Better week last week. 4-1 last week. Much better. We're going to try to claw our way back to 500, which I get it. All of you that bet. I don't bet, by the way. I just make these picks. I've never bet on any sporting event in my life. And at this point, everybody that does bet, they keep telling me, hey.
So, what are you into?
I thought you'd never ask. I just sort of my list.
Your list?
You can't go wrong with the Nintendo Switch 2.
Ooh, gamer.
Then you start to get into seeding, all right? So here we go. Let's start seeding these things out, and then you'll start to see some of these at-large teams and kind of how I assigned some of these wins and losses. All right, so seeding these, I would start with number 1, and if Ohio State, who's number 1 now, were to go 13-0, they will be the number 1 seed. So Ohio State is going to be our number 1 seed. They're the Big Ten champ. There they are. Now, as an undefeated SEC champ, this team could absolutely overtake Ohio State. But at this point, Ohio State is number 1. We'll see what the committee thinks, in particular about the strength of schedule and some of those wins that Texas A&M has. But A&M, in this model, would be the number 2 seed, and there they are. Number 3 seed. I think the 3 and 4 seed are going to be the 2 teams that were able to get to the Big Ten and SEC championship games but fell short. Their resumes are going to be outstanding. Their strength of schedules, even though people like to rip on the Big Ten strength of schedule, I think Indiana would have really good marquee wins, including that road win at Oregon. So I'm going to go Indiana at number 3 as the Big Ten runner-up. Remember, they're 12-1 at this point. The only reason they get the 3 seed over Alabama is at this point Alabama would be an 11-2 team. 11-2. Let's get into the top 10 as I see it here in college football. This top 10 continues to evolve, and I will just tell you, I've gotten a lot of comments down below in the show, and I do get in there, by the way, almost every Monday, and I go in there and try to answer. So it happens, Ohio State also runs the football offensive state. It's hard. And let's just put it to you this way. If you're looking at passing metrics from an offensive standpoint, We all know Alabama is an elite passing offense. Ty Simpson is great. And yet, by the numbers, you can make an argument that Ohio State is better. Now, you might not win that argument, but it's right there. Razor's edge. We're talking about the elite of the elite passing games in all of college football. Just so happens Ohio State also runs the football way better than Alabama does. Now, not great, but way better than Alabama, who, by the way, is like next to last in the SEC in terms of rushing yards per carry. That's not going to help them. And oh, by the way, Ohio State's defense is like the best defense in the sport. So they not only have that to hang their hat on, but then they can go to this offense and they've run the football to win it. They can throw the football whenever they want, and they don't want to all the time. It's just like, I know it's boring, folks. I know it's boring, but like that is the elite team in college football. Thank you for watching the Joel Clash Show. The fourth quarter was dominant. YouTube channel, and if the fourth quarter was dominant. That was like this clip. Make sure to like it and subscribe to the channel, and you can stay up to date on all of my college football coverage. Another Saturday in college football. Heather Dinich, Paul Feinbaum are with us to do that. And Heather, I want to focus on Alabama and focus on Texas A&M. And it's battle for the top team in the SEC. One is ranked higher than the other in the AP poll. That's the Aggies. Why do you still have Bama ahead of A&M in your top 12?
Well, because my job is to look at it through the eyes of the selection committee, and they would take a deeper dive into the Aggies' overall resume. And when you do that, guys, you see that their wins against LSU and Notre Dame are the only opponents that they've defeated with a winning record. Everyone else on Texas A&M's schedule is a combined 20 and 26. Let that sink in for a second. Alabama, on the other hand, has 4 wins against ranked opponents. They're number 4 in strength of record, number 4 in strength of schedule, number 8 in total efficiency. Overall, Alabama has more quality wins, more statement wins. The question will be, can committee members get over that loss to Florida State, which continues to look worse every week?
And Heather, I think the reason why I think they'll be able to do that is if Alabama and Texas A&M meet in Atlanta in the SEC championship game. And right now, those two are tracking for a major collision. We are really splitting hairs between the two, but the reason I side with Heather here is what Alabama has done in the last 5 weeks. We all know about Florida State. Nobody wants to hear about that anymore in Alabama, although they were about to hear about South Carolina yesterday. But this is the other team we want to talk about, LSU. They can say goodbye to the playoffs, and Texas A&M continues to impose its will. And one of the worst beatdowns I have seen at LSU in a very long time.
That's interesting because now you got A&M, Alabama, Vandy, Ole Miss. All of those guys got big wins. So Heather, yesterday it seems like it gave us a much clearer picture of who the SEC's real playoff contenders are this season. So in your estimation, who made the biggest statement, you think, to the committee yesterday?
Go with Vanderbilt because this is the first week that Vanderbilt has come into my top 12 projection for the selection committee. I had them at number 9. They now have back-to-back wins against ranked SEC teams, and again, back-to-back full resume.
It's simple. I think this answer is simple, and I think Indiana's been having a great year, of course, in Tannehill. But I would stay about 50 points, baby.
They went on the road and won convincingly at South Carolina, which just took Alabama to the brink. So when you look at that total body of work, which is what the select.
They've been watching. They got Fox got Big Ten. So
Nerds official YouTube channel.
Big
Make
Ten.
sure to
So
like and subscribe and click on the Knockout Podcast. All of our NFL instant reactions and more football content. And with that, Joel Klatt, the voice of college football, is now joining us. He's got Penn State and Ohio State this weekend.
So, these universities, they always squawk about they're running out of money. Boy, the NIL, how are we going to make the NIL work? And then they buy out James Franklin and Brian Kelly at LSU. So they got plenty of money.
Ryan Day.
We were talking about this. So Florida's got an opening. LSU's got an opening. Penn State's got an opening. Now, I think a lot of it, Brian Kelly always felt Midwest to me, not Southern. I didn't love the fit, but Urban Meyer went down and won natties at Florida. He's more Midwest. If you said there was the hottest coach in the country, LSU, Florida, Penn State, is there a best job of those three?
Yeah, I think LSU is. And Colin, I would go a step further and say I think LSU is a top 3 job in the entire sport. I think only Texas and maybe Ohio State are better than LSU. I think LSU is a better job than Bama. I think it's arguable between LSU and Georgia. They've got incredible resources. The recruiting pipeline is right there. You're in the middle of everything in terms of recruiting. They have tradition. Guys can win national championship there, so it comes down to fit. I mean, why does Ed Ogeron fit at LSU and not Brian Kelly? I think it's what you were just talking about being rigid. Ed Ogeron, went down there and he was flexible and did some things that maybe he was uncomfortable with, and all of a sudden they turned into the best offense in the history of college football in 2019 with Joe Burrow. And Brian Kelly, I mean, it was the moment he stepped onto that basketball court and gave the fake Southern accent. I couldn't unsee that or unhear that. So every time I saw him in an LSU shirt or hat, I couldn't unhear the fake accent. It was never a good fit, and the authenticity was never really there at LSU. And now it's starting to come out. A lot of the former players are chirping on social media, and you're trying to decipher what that is and peek under the hood a little bit, but fit is very important. Back to the question about best jobs, I do think that LSU is the best one of this cycle. And Colin, I would say that these 3 with Florida and Penn State, I think are 3 of the top 10 jobs in all of college football.
Yeah.
And I can't remember, maybe I'm just being recency bias here, I can't remember a time when we had this level of openings, in particular in October. That's never happened. We can talk about the timing of these firings as well. But these are massive jobs that are all looking for the A-list guy, and I would actually make an argument that the talent pool is more thin than it's ever been.
More thin than it's ever been.
A bit of an arms race.
The talent pool is more thin than ever has it been.
The talent pool is more thin than it's ever been. This is going to produce a bit of an arms race. Lane Kiffin likely will end up being the highest paid coach in college football because of this. Dan Lanning will likely end up being a $15 million a year coach because of this, whether they stay in their respective spots or move. I think LSU is going to call Urban and Nick Saban because why wouldn't you? I think they're going to call Dan Lanning and they're going to offer
Urban and Nick Saban.
Has a lot of money. This is what people I don't think understand. It's a little bit more quiet than other places around the country, but they've got those billionaires down there, trust me, and they've got a lot of resources, and money will not be the reason that they miss on a coach here. But what they should be thinking about is what we were just talking about, which is fit. Who's the best fit for LSU? Because if you get the fit right, that's a place that can win the national championship.
So 2 games this weekend are fascinating. If USC loses at Nebraska and Vanderbilt beats Texas, Sark and Lincoln Riley are going to get major heat. Now, Sark's got a bit of a pass because Arch Manning hurt, may not play, right? I saw some Sark rumors come out about the NFL. I had said this 2 months ago. I think he's the best candidate out there from the college game is Sark. But I think Texas is arguably the best job, so I would stay in Austin. But let's just look ahead. And I know I always talk USC. But last time you were on, you said it's better now. And I said, okay. The offense was good 4 years ago. The offense was smart and clever, and quarterback play was good. They were very good at home 4 years ago, and they can't win games on the road. And they're a much better process.
Yeah, that's so surface. It's so surface.
Maybe I'm surface. I'm in television. Maybe it's just the makeup in me.
Maybe.
If they lose to Nebraska, would you acknowledge it's not better than 3 years ago?
Yes, yeah. This is a great litmus test of I guess, our positions on this. You talked about the offense being clever and creative. That's because they had to be, because they weren't balanced. Now they're balanced. And against the teams that they can retain that balance, they're very good. Now, was Illinois a good matchup for them? No. Notre Dame? No. And that's why they need to continue to get better. I believe they're on the trajectory towards getting better in those areas to be better at the line of scrimmage. But what's different now is that they will and are committed to running the football. And they should be able to run it against Nebraska. Nebraska is ranked 15th in the Big Ten stopping the run. And if you allow Lincoln Riley and Jaden Mayava to have a run game, they will pick you apart. This is why it's different now, and it's much more sustainable. The one worry would be, like, is their defense going to be able to stop the run of Nebraska? I think Nebraska's okay running the football. They'll certainly try to test the interior of that defensive line. But this has much more sustainability, and the trajectory for USC is a lot more positive now than it was even when they had Caleb Williams, because with Caleb Williams, it was smoke and mirrors.
It was smoke and mirrors.
It was all surface. It was lipstick. It was vanity. Now there's some substance there because of the balance that they play with on the offensive side. And if they retain that against Nebraska, they'll win this weekend. There's not a doubt in my mind.
This weekend.
In fact, I would take them and give the 6.5 because I don't think Nebraska stops the run, and there's no way that USC is going to score under 35 points if they're balanced. And if you're telling me Dylan Raiola is going to score 30 or more points against USC, I just don't think that that's going to take place.
So I watched last week. I watched Alabama and South Carolina play, and though it was in a losing cause, I think I draft the South Carolina quarterback first because I see juice. I've always said this about quarterback play. When I watch a college guy, you got to give me one wow trait. I've got to go wow. Now, so South Carolina, that kid.
You're wrong again.
Ty Simpson has no juice. He's just a juice.
Watch it. Watch his intermediate throws. Watch him control the game from the pocket. Colin.
He is just.
Who wins Super Bowls?
Colin. Who wins Super Bowls?
Patrick Mahomes from the pocket.
Control the game now. You have to do those things first. See, this is I bring this up all the time. This is math. You gotta have Algebra 1 under your belt before you can go to Algebra 2 and then Calculus 1. You gotta bake the cake first before you put frosting on it. You want to go and you want to put the wedding topper on it and get all the frivolous frosting on the cake, but you gotta understand, you've gotta make the cake first. And listen, Sellers is a terrific player. He'll certainly be thought of highly in the NFL draft. I think he's going to be a top 10 pick.
I think he's going to be a top 10 pick.
If you compare their games, the game that Ty Simpson plays directly correlates to the National Football League. He will go in and he will have success. He is a Bo Nix or a Joe Burrow style of guy that can go in there and make those throws right away with anticipation and accuracy. I would also put another guy in there. Fernando Mendoza is going to have a ton of success in the NFL because of what he does from a foundational standpoint. His accuracy, his anticipation, his intellect.
Indiana.
Sellers is a wonderful player. But you take a look around the NFL and all of these places that draft traits at quarterback versus drafting quarterbacks, and it never ends up well for them. They're turning over offensive coordinators. They're turning over head coaches. It never really works. Maybe that guy will succeed down the road. But to me, the first pick in the draft is going to become a discussion between Mendoza at Indiana and Ty Simpson at Alabama. Sellers is wonderful, but he doesn't control the game from the pocket like those two do.
Sundays,
Ever since Tom Brady won
in the National Football League.
The quarterbacks that win the Super Bowl, look at their college careers. Look at the style that they play. Look what they do. Their experience. They have over 30 starts combined. I think the average number of starts for the guys that have won Super Bowls since the early 2000s is like 29 and a half is the average number of starts in college. So you're looking for an experienced guy who can go out there, control it from the pocket. So that's what I would say about that. I mean, look at the trace. You keep wanting to draft Caleb Williams, and then now you bag on Caleb Williams, and you're all over Ben Johnson.
You're all over Ben Johnson.
I like all of them. I thought all of those guys could control the game from the
pocket.
I like Jaden Daniels' movement. I like Bo Nix's athletic ability. I actually like Drake May's athletic.
But those are pluses. Those are like that's the frosting. It's like great. Now you tell me you got a cake, and now you can put some frosting on it. No, I'm in.
Let me ask you, if Ohio State, so Michigan wins the Natty, then Ohio State wins the Natty. If Ohio State and their defense is clearly the best in the country.
Yeah.
If